Hello and welcome back to Aus Football Talk. I know it's been an extended break, but as I said last week, there will be weekly episodes moving forward, so hopefully you're looking forward to it. It's been a massive off-season. We've seen some positive things, like Sam Kerr returning from an ACL injury finally, to some not so great things like the Western United situation and how that's all unfolded. But as of last weekend, the A-League Men's has returned, and the highlight of the weekend has to be the F3 Derby. It had everything. Full Jets away section, young stars stepping up, Redmayne penalty heroics, and Mariners after a turbulent off-season come away with 3 points in dramatic fashion. We've also seen the Australian Championship kick off a couple of weeks ago, advertised as a new era for Australian football. We've already seen the best and the wacky Australian second division football can offer. We've seen players like Ali Algler show why he really should be playing at the professional level. South Melbourne, Preston and Apia all crack 4K in attendance, South almost reaching 7 in their opening match. And at Sydney United, this diabolical attempt at time wasting from someone in the stands.
Pretty sure it was subbed. It's not the kind of long throw we're expecting later on in this game. The Sydney United supporters in no hurry to restore the ball. Now we've got a multi-ball situation as it's lofted in, and oh my goodness! Oh my goodness!
My favourite part of that too is the City United players crowding around the referee complaining about the second ball on the pitch. Like their fans aren't the reason it was there. The championship has been brilliant so far, from the wacky like that to some beautiful pieces of football. So if you get a chance, go experience it, because from my personal experience, I don't like to get into comparisons about what's better between the A-League and local football. But if the A-League doesn't scratch your football itch, this just might. In some unfortunate news, Ange Postecoglou's time at Nottingham Forest has come to an end after 8 games and 39 days, making it both the second shortest managerial stint in EPL history and the shortest managerial stint in Forest history. In 8 games, Ange didn't manage a single win, including games against Swansea and FC Midtjylland. Now, I think I speak for most, if not all, Australians when I say we want Ange to succeed no matter where he is, but the decision to take over Forest wasn't a good idea. He had a fragile reputation, rightly or wrongly, after finishing 17th with Tottenham, and he's taking over a club not in a horrible spot, who had a manager that people liked, sacked by an egotistical owner who you now have to answer to, with a squad built for a completely different style to your own. It was never going to work, and unfortunately, it further fuels the revisionism of his career.
What Mr. Marinakis has done is get rid of a proven good manager in Nuno Espirito Santo. Whatever you think of Espirito Santo, however good you think he is undoubtedly a decent Premier League manager with a decent Premier League record who will go on to manage in the Premier League again to a decent level.
Or is that West Ham?
They have got rid of a good manager and they have appointed a dreadful manager.
Saying all this, Ange has flaws. He's stubborn and set in his ways, which means he's inflexible if he's figured out, and particular with his methods, meaning if the right players aren't there, he's both unable and unwilling to adapt. In an environment like England, where the scrutiny is obscene and methods will be questioned whether they're working or not, if the media decide they don't like you, which after a while they did, it's going to be an awful time. Ange has the ability to succeed in England, 100%. But it's hard for any manager to do that in an environment that's extremely volatile or in an environment where you're not completely supported. And the crazy thing is, Ange did it in the latter. But taking this role has come back to bite him. He was duped by a conceited owner to take a long-term project that needed to yield immediate results. And unfortunately, in this case, Ange only has himself to blame because the outcome was so obvious, and now it's going to be extremely difficult if he wants another Premier League gig, at least in the short term.
I don't think a Premier League club at this moment in time, nor a Championship club, would be a good idea for him. Have a bit of a break, have a sabbatical, do some TV work, maybe come back here to Australia to do some TV work first. Just wait a little bit for in England, because right now, if he went and done some TV work in England, inevitably when you're commenting on the game, you have to offer some type of constructive criticism. At this moment in time, for him to say something, you're going to get You're talking about narrative. You're going to get people saying what after you've just had 8 games and have.
Moving on to this episode's main story. The Socceroos had a friendly series in North America recently and came away with a win against Canada and a loss to the USA. And it's safe to say we left an impression over there. They're lucky it was a friendly. I was ready to go. If the ref didn't give me a shit yellow, I probably would have killed somebody. Chris Richards is a big boy, but I love in that pic you can see he still has to look up to Cam Burgess. The USA game marked the end of Popovic's unbeaten run to start his tenure, and despite only being in the role for a year, there are a lot of opinions on him already, as comes with the territory of managing a national team. Some of the negatives are reasonable criticism, but there are opinions and comments that may be a bit unfair considering the situation. So today, let's talk about Popovic's Socceroos, from how he's selecting his squads, how he's setting up, and what the result of it all is. And starting with the squad selections, not dissimilar to what Ange faced in the role, there are accusations of bringing in players he has relations with. Now, this criticism isn't baseless. Arzani and Volupele's inclusions, especially early on for the latter, are examples you can rightly point to. But a player like Socceroos is odd to point out considering he's never managed him in the past. The complaints come as some young players have been left devoid of opportunities, Segacic the main example pointed to, but throughout his career, and seemingly particularly now, Popper does tend to value experience over youth.
Now, I, like you and like fans, want that experience to jump from 0 to 100 with these young players overnight. But you've also got to remember that Mick Duke was also 20 and 21, and now he's mid-30s, and he can still produce that performance against Japan and Saudi. We need these young boys to get to that level, but that doesn't just happen overnight.
He wants youngsters to earn their spot, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's evident in how Segacic's inclusion was handled. He said he got a taste for the camp, and it was up to him to earn minutes for the side. Albeit, Sega wasn't in the next squad, and we saw the expected fan furor, despite Sega saying he'll continue to put in the work to show he deserves a debut. What's pleasing to see, and I think most people would agree with this, is the value placed in the shirt. Unfortunately, Australia is susceptible to issues with dual nationals. We've seen in the cases of Triantis, Volpato and Robertson in recent memory, and it feels as though there is a stark difference to how this is approached. Popovic is asserting from the get-go that he will not sell the jersey or opportunity to play for Australia to anyone, and if they wish to make themselves available, they can notify him themselves. Meanwhile, in the lead up to the 2022 World Cup, Arnold took a slightly different approach.
You offer him the position. What I didn't like is Graham Arnold said he called him 3 times or something. Don't call him 3 times. Tell him it's your spot. This is the deadline. Answer it.
This isn't sustainable, and it opens us up to becoming a mockery. I'd like to believe most fans would appreciate this approach. It may have cost us Triantis recently. However, it will reward those who commit to us in the long run. Looking at what happens on the pitch, and it's no secret Popper's a defensive-minded coach. He got the Wanderers to an ACL title with the worst case of haram ball ever witnessed. When it comes to this, I'll entertain the criticism. There's games even against opponents that can be considered lesser than us, that have seen us seen less of the ball. And for the most part, the football is unattractive, but it's not dissimilar to what we've produced in the past. The last 2 World Cups, we set up in a defensive way too.
Do you feel we took them on today, Foz?
No, not in a tactical sense. As I said, the style of play is very, very different. And in my personal view, what happens is you end up doing a lot of defending, you concede a lot of shots. I mean, I think in the first 10 or 15 minutes, Matty conceded more chances and made more saves. I was more involved than any keeper so far in the tournament.
It's not uncommon to see from Australia, and to be fair, at the last World Cup, it worked. Compared to the last 2 World Cups though, there's a lot going Popper's way. The players coming through are getting better. 2022 was probably the first time since the golden generation I believe we've seen an increase in quality of an Australian World Cup squad compared to the tournament before. And the players coming through can fit a pragmatic style if utilised well. And the most interesting case of this is probably Aaron Kunda, who I want to talk about for a moment. This is arguably the best talent we've seen since Harry Kewell, but it could also be the first time we've seen a player of this sort of ability where the personality is just as attention-grabbing. The biggest criticism while he was in the A-League was his temperament and how emotional he can get, and those arguments arose again after an incident at a recent Watford match where he was subbed after less than 40 minutes. He was visibly angry, stormed down the tunnel, but the way Popovic summed it up shows why we shouldn't have really been putting stake in the behavioural actions of a teenager.
I think the most important part of that is not what happened there. It's what happened the week later, because I watched the game after that they won 2-1, and he probably played and moved as well as he has for the last couple of weeks. So there was a reaction.
Now, when he was in the A-League, it may have panned out a little different, but that's a life journey. We were all 18 once and we all grow from it. Unfortunately, tall poppy syndrome is rife in Australia because we have a player who could legitimately be our best ever. And we were tearing him down because he's gotten angry or upset a couple times. I've got 2 things to say about this. 1, he was 17, 18 at the time, and their standard human reactions to what occurred. And 2, I kind of want to see this from an Australian. As far as I can remember, we have produced very little, if any, player that has that maverick personality about him, that moves with a bit of swagger, and maybe will cross the line every now and again. And for some reason, every Aussie athlete needs to be the perfect model citizen, and if they do something slightly against the grain, it gets overblown. Aaron Kunda is going to be a special player for the Socceroos, but if the focus is always going to be on the small things like a push and shove, which, let's be real, compared to what some athletes get up to, is extremely minute, then we won't be able to enjoy him for what he truly is. And I believe Popovic could be the right person to manage his personality and get the best out of him. Now back to Popper. For all the criticisms he's received, the reality is we're over 12 months into his tenure, 12 games in that time, and we've lost once. We've played Japan twice, we've played Saudi Arabia twice, faced Canada and USA now. The opponents haven't been easy. And from that, we've beaten Saudi away, Canada on their home turf, and Japan for the first time in over a decade. And people still found fault with that last one. The Socceroos in the last 12 months have been consistent. They've been solid, and despite some moments in some games fortunately going their way, have created this scenario for themselves.
Certainly a game of fine margins like football, where there are so many variables at play, then luck, if you can call it that, plays its role. But, you know, that abuts against the famous old saying, you know, the harder I work, the luckier I get. I just think the form line to which we just referred of Tony Popovic's coach is too strong to ignore and just put this as lucky.
I think we're past the point of considering this as luck. The Socceroos are where they are by design, and the results and performances have Popper's fingerprints all over them. Whatever you think of the tactics, whatever you think of his decision making, whatever you think of the squad selections, you can't deny it's working. And it's working in a way that can be maintained. There's a World Cup around the corner, and I can't think of a time in recent memory where we're able to go there with this much confidence. And we still have 2 international breaks to fine-tune things. There's a good level of depth to the squad. Everyone seems to be on the same page. We're in a good spot, even despite coming off a loss. And yes, we all want to see pretty football, I get it. But I think right now, until some of our more promising young players have hit their peaks, we need to ask ourselves, do we want a team that's attractive to watch or a team that wins? Because right now, that seems like the choice we need to make. And look, as rough as things may be to watch sometimes, at least we're not resorting to this.
Pretty sure it was subbed.
That's the show. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, all that jazz. We'll be back next week, same time, same place. My name's Cody Ojeda. This has been Aus Football Talk, and I will see you very soon.